and welcome to one of the biggest days on the AFL calendar, the 2024 mock draft. This is not the real thing. Unfortunately, we have to still wait a couple of weeks for that, but this is the next best thing. We've got draft experts in the house to tell us how the first round might play out this year, and there's obviously been a huge amount of attention on this year's talent pool. I'm playing the role of Andrew Dillon, not actually Andrew, you might have noticed, Al Paton here, and joining me, draft guru who's been following the kids for a long time, Chris Cavanagh. Great to have you with us, Chris. And I mean, how excited should we be about this year's pool?
Yeah, absolutely, Al. 2 weeks to go. It's a bit of a super draft this year, as we've been saying. Probably 65 kids will achieve their dreams and get picked up in the national draft. There's also the rookie draft too for those who don't get picked up the first couple of nights. But I think even Richmond's holding a draft watch party, which I haven't heard of before. So it's very, very exciting, especially for those at Punt Road. But also, plenty of other clubs with a lot of picks in the early part of the draft.
Yeah, exactly. So how this will work is, as I said, I'll play the Andrew Dillon role, and I'll go through the picks in the first round. I think we're going out to about 27, and these guys will be playing the role of the club recruiters and telling us who they think or who speculate might go at those picks and why. So I think, Cav, you're down to take Richmond, and we've also got Dan Batten here. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
Oh, well, I'm Brisbane.
Event, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm a few clubs: North Melbourne, St Kilda, West Coast, GWS Sydney, and Brisbane for me. So I've got my calculator ready for some bids happening, because there might be an early bid for Brisbane, I think, with Levi Ashcroft. But we'll see just how early. But yeah, as Cav alluded to, it's such a great draft crop, very deep. I think Super Draft, it's thrown around a bit, but particularly deep this draft. And you'll see that as we go through our selections, that some of these picks we pick at maybe 25, 23, whatever, are going to end up being high quality talent. So yeah, excited to get into it.
All right, so plenty of good names to come. And as we alluded to, Richmond obviously playing a very important role, and they kick it off with pick one. So Cav, that's you, and you're on the clock. Who do you want with pick one?
Yeah, I'm not going to take long here, Al. I'm going to bid on Levi Ashcroft at number one. I think he's the best player in this draft. We've seen what his brother Will did during the final series for Brisbane this year. Obviously won the Norm Smith medal. I think Levi's going to be just as good potentially. So I'm going to place a bid on Levi at number one.
Come on. We did that trade during the trade period. I thought there was a handshake agreement here. Come on.
No dodgy deals here.
So I guess how this works is that now over to Brisbane. Dan, you've got the option of matching this bid using Squazillion draft points. So
so we've got our calculator here, adding it up. So 27, 34, 42, 43, 49, and 60 equals up to 2451 points. We need 2,400 draft points on the draft value index to match a bid at pick one. So we're pretty much wiping out all our picks here, but it's, as Cav alluded to, it's certainly worth it. I think it's obviously Will Ashcroft. We saw what he did at junior level. Levi's done similar, but also some more goals from the boundary from Levi. I think we can expect a bit more excitement up forward. Maybe not as prolific, maybe not as good of a leader as Levi, but certainly very exciting and certainly deserving. I think both of us ranked him as our number one talent.
And obviously I've got a bit of a SuperCoach hat on as usual, but obviously Brisbane, pretty hard team to crack into. Do you reckon we'll see Levi early on next year?
I think so, yeah. I think he would have been playing this year, even in their stack lineup. Obviously they had a few injuries, but yeah, I think you can definitely pencil him into your SuperCoach team. Even if he's an outside midfielder, I think he's still going to average pretty high numbers in SuperCoach.
Certainly capable of playing across half forward as well. So yeah, there's options to get him in.
Yep. All right, now, so that Richmond now slides back to pick two. Back to you, Cav. Who do you like?
Yeah, so this guy's been talked about a lot, and it is Sam Lalor from Greater Western Victoria Rebels. I think if you look at Richmond's list and how many match winners are left, we've lost Dustin Martin, we've lost Shea Bolton. So I think Lalor is a logical first pick here. There's a lot of Dustin Martin, a lot of Jordan De Goey about him. The way he goes about it, he's that midfielder forward, modern day, powerful player, kicks goals. He did have quite a frustrating year with injury, but he's going to be a serious player. He can win clearances, he can go forward, take marks, as I said, kick goals. So I think he's a perfect fit for the Tigers at number one, which is number two.
Yeah, exactly. So number three, heading straight into North Melbourne's first pick of the draft. Obviously, they've had a few high ones in recent seasons, but Dan, if you're North Melbourne, who do you think you'd take at pick three?
This is a big predicament, and obviously it's been talked about that North Melbourne have entertained a slide because most of those probably the top 5 or 6 ranked players in the draft are midfielders. And what have North Melbourne done the last 5 years? Just draft midfielders. You've got Colby McKercher, George Wardlaw, Harry Sheezel, Will Phillips, Tom Powell, drafted since 2020. So I'm going to put in a call to Richmond. Let's see if they do answer. I'm going to offer pick 7. I'm going to offer pick 3 now and a future first rounder. So putting a lot on the table for pick 7 and 12 that Richmond currently holds. So let's see if we get through.
So, there we go. We'll just send that to voicemail.
No answer.
Tigers are happy with their picks as they stand.
Yeah, hey, that's fair enough. We're going to go with a bit of a controversial call here in Alix Tauru, who is a 193 centimetre halfback, intercept defender. On talent, maybe he's not the third best available in the draft, but I think he has heaps of upside, and he's improved so much throughout this year. He's from the Gippsland Power. He said he wants to move away from where he lives in Warragul. So, I think he is going to be a supreme talent. But at the same time, I think he fills a list need. But and I guess the one thing is, particularly in the top 5, 6 clubs might go, oh, why are you drafting another midfielder? Why are we drafting another whatever? The golden rule of recruiting really is to draft on talent rather than needs right at the top. But I think this is one where North had so many top-end picks and drafted midfielders that this can be the exception. I think Tauru has that potential to be a Tom Stewart type, and he's so athletic and intercepting so important in the modern game. And I think that, he can be a quality player at the Roos.
Well, North obviously went pretty hard for Dan Houston in the trade period.
Yeah.
Is that similar style of player?
Not quite. So he's more of your leaping intercept marking player, but he's proved that he can do it up forward as well as a marking target. So and he's also played a little bit of midfield this year. So there's plenty of potential there. Again, it is a bit of a risk, but North Melbourne can afford to, I think.
All right, pick 4 generated a fair bit of headlines during the trade period. West Coast traded it to Carlton, so the Blues come in here, and that's back to you again, Cav. Obviously Carlton probably had their eye on someone when they were doing all those deals, so who do you like? Yeah,
well, that someone might have been Finn O'Sullivan, I reckon. If you look at Carlton, they clearly need some more speed and power through the midfield, and O'Sullivan's one that can provide both of those things. So he's had a really rough run with injury this year, missed a lot of footy, but he's really tough, athletically gifted player. He showed plenty of class when he was on the field this year, played some VFL for Richmond, looked really good as well. So I think he's the logical pick for the Blues, and gives them something different through that midfield, as well as the bonus being that he's also the second cousin of Sam Walsh. So there might be a nice little connection there for many years to come. So I think Finn is a great pick for the Blues.
And similar type of player to Sam?
A little bit different, a little bit more powerful, a little bit more of that Dustin Martin, Jordan DeGoey type. Can go forward, kick goals as well. But he's very exciting footballer.
All right, some Blues fans and Eagles fans will be watching keenly as the years go on. So pick 5 is Adelaide. Dan, who have we got on Adelaide? No, it's back to you again, Kev. Sorry.
I've got the Crows as well.
Are you looking to pick a South Australian at this pick? Is there someone in that range?
Yeah, so the interesting thing here is that it was a bit of a toss-up for me between Sid Draper and Harvey Langford. So Sid Draper's a South Australian, Harvey Langford's a Victorian from Dandenong Stingrays. I think both are players that the Crows would usually go for. They're that big-bodied, contested type players. But I think if you've got a comparable talent between the two, you're probably going to lean towards the South Australian. So I have gone with Sid Draper. He can provide something different through the midfield for the Crows with his power, his speed, breakaway from contest. He's ready to go at the next level as well. He played 6 games of senior sample footy for South Adelaide this year. So, he looks a ready-made prospect for Adelaide. And I think, go with the local when in doubt.
Over to you, Dan, this time. Sorry, that's last pick, but we've got the Demons at pick 6. What do you think they need?
Well, probably a midfielder at this pick. We've definitely considered Harry Armstrong as well. Hopefully he can get through to our second pick just in a little bit. But we're going to go with Jagga Smith. He was my number 2 ranked player in the entire pool behind Ashcroft. So I'm pretty happy to get him at this spot. Obviously, there's some doubts over Clayton Oliver, Christian Petrarca, their long-term future. But I think Jagga Smith can have an immediate impact anyway. We've seen him dominate for Richmond VFL. He had like 30 touches averaged about that in his few games there. Has dominated at every level, really. He's got a nice spinning move as well out of traffic. Obviously, the moves like Jagga is going to be a pretty common headline, I think, over the coming years. But yeah, there's a bit of Zach Butters about Jagga, and a prolific midfielder. And I think you should probably be, if he slides to 6, you should be locking him into your SuperCoach teams.
Yes, no, I've seen a few stats during the year, and he's definitely a name that I've had penciled into my little SuperCoach black book for next year. The Tigers are back in again. Obviously, plenty of picks in this year's draft, but pick 7, given that first one slid back a little bit. Cav, so who do you reckon the Tigers can pick here?
Yeah, so another tough pick for me. I was tossing up between Harvey Langford again and Josh Smillie, both Victorians, both big body midfielders, both contested beasts, can go forward, kick goals. I ended up going with Smillie. He's 195 centimetres, so he's got 4 centimetres on Langford. And just speaking to Josh and some people around him this year, I just get the impression he could be a future club captain. He's a real. He said he's basically a natural born leader. And I think with Richmond's leadership void that they've got at the moment, you probably want those leaders that you can rely on for the next 10 years to help bring through the next crop of players that will hopefully lead the club to a premiership. So I've gone with Smillie at pick 7.
Now, the next 2 picks, some interesting spot here for the Saints, who have picks, was pick 7 and 8, so now pick 8 and 9, and that's you, Dan. So how do you think they'll attack that, getting 2 picks in the top 10?
It's interesting. I think you can really just go on pure talent here, and we're doing that. Obviously, Cav has overlooked Harvey Langford. We're going to lock him in, and Saints fans might say, oh, another slow midfielder, we don't need that. But I think Langford's different. He's got 190 centimetre size. He can mark overhead really well, and he's just dominated at national championships level and also in the talent league as well. Hardly played a bad game. I think he's averaged about 150 SuperCoach points in. So there we go. Lock him in now, especially at this pick. But yeah, I think he can have an immediate impact next year, and took out the Lark medal as well as the joint Lark medal, was the best player at the national championships. So I think his mix of size, ball winning, marking, and scoreboard impact as well. Whether he probably starts as a half forward, but then moves into the midfield, I think he's got a lot of potential there. So we're locking him in at the Saints.
And then with the pick straight after?
Yeah, so we're actually going to, I mentioned that speed area in the midfield, and I think the Saints could definitely do with a bit of extra speed. So we're going to bid on Leo Lombard, who actually won the 20-metre sprint, or actually didn't win it, but he came top 5 and in that and the agility tests, and just has dominated. He played in Gold Coast VFL flag as a 16-year-old last year, so we're going to place a bid on him.
So he's a member of the Gold Coast Academy. So
yeah, I've got the Suns, yes. Yeah. So, it's probably a few spots higher than we would have liked, but we'll get the calculator out and we'll match that one. So, as you say, I mean, he's another sort of Took Miller type midfielder, can also go forward and have a real scoreboard impact. So he's got that speed, agility, clean hands, strong pressure game. I expect him to be a dependable player for many years for the Suns.
And this is, some questions around the Suns' trading strategy with some of the picks they give away and the deals that they do. But this is sort of what's going on, isn't it? That they've got these amazing kids coming through the academy. Exactly.
We saw 4 get picked up last year, didn't we? And then they've got some more coming through next year, and they got Lombard this year. So, yeah, they're in a nice spot, Damien Hardwick's Suns.
So Saints still alive here. They're now pushed back to pick 10. Who's still around at this pick?
Yeah, well, there's a couple that we're agonising over, really. The key forward, Harry Armstrong, or the runner in Tobie Travaglia. We saw what the Saints did last year, picked up a lot of runners. Darcy Wilson, there was a clear intent there to get speed and endurance into that side, and we're going to go with that again in Tobie Travaglia. We picked 10 from the Bendigo Pioneers. So he's had a really impressive year. He actually beat out Reid for the Pioneers best and fairest last year, to be fair. Reid only played about 4 games there, playing in the VFL and the like. It's still a decent achievement nonetheless. I think he can be a bit of a Will Day type into the future, 190 centimetres or thereabouts. Can run all day, came second at the 2 kilometre time trial at the draft combine, and has got speed and line breaking ability as well, and also quite a good kick. So I think he's a nice fit there at the Saints. Probably starts as a rebounding defender, but then I think he has the potential to move into the midfield as well.
And still with you, Dan, for the D's back in with pick 11 now. So I think they got this in a deal with Essendon, I believe.
That's right,
in the trade. So they were obviously quite aggressive trying to get high in the draft. So can we get a sense of what they were aiming for there?
Yeah, so I think we might not place a bid on Isaac Kako. They've done us a pretty good deal there. But yeah, I mentioned before that we even would have considered Harry Armstrong earlier, with fearing that maybe Richmond or the St Kilda may have addressed a key forward there. But I think we're going to lock him in with this pick, Harry Armstrong. He's dominated at school level, also in the talent league, kicked 5 goals in the final national championships game. Really came a bit of a bolter sort of midway through the year, but I think he's proved his standing as a potential top 10 pick. But I guess the one question mark is, he's dominated against smaller opponents throughout his junior years. Can he do that at the next level? I think he can eventually, but it might take a little bit of adjustment. So, but I still think it's a good value selection here for the Ds.
And that, addressing a clear need for them, obviously.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
So, Cav, back to you for the Tigers. We haven't heard Richmond for a little while, so we need to get some more Tigers back into the top end of the draft. So they've got 2 picks, they've got pick 12 as it's turned out on our list based on the bids, etc. we've had so far. So what can we do here?
Well, since Dan's been bidding on all of my players, I'm going to start bidding on his. I'm going to place a bid on Isaac Kako, who's Essendon Next Generation Academy, and small forward who would fit nicely at Richmond. So I think we'll place that bid.
Okay, so looking at the calculator, I think it'll probably wipe out our first 2 second-round picks, so probably end up being around about 29 and 33, all that sort of thing. But we'll definitely take that. I think it's 1,014 draft points we need to match, and he's certainly worth it. I think if you ask Siri what Essendon needs the draft, I think Isaac Kako's highlights will come up. He's super exciting. He could have definitely played this year, I think, at a number of AFL clubs as a small forward. I think he can have that similar impact to Nick Watson, what he did in his first year at the Hawks. A live wire forward, got real speed, freakish goal sense. It's bit like Ashcroft, has kicked plenty of goals from the boundary across his junior years. And I think he'll become a bit of a cult hero at the Bombers of a Iraqi heritage as well.
And this is how they sort of would have seen it playing out, I guess, in terms of rather than just keeping that pick and having to use it on him, they trade it, get something for it, and then they get him here anyway. Yeah,
exactly. And Essendon fans might say, oh, why did we trade the pick? Because Melbourne didn't actually end up bidding on him. But at the same time, I think that, if they hadn't traded that pick, if someone would have bid it earlier. That's just how it happens. And there's always the bid threatening and that sort of thing. So I think they've done well to get this pick, get some stuff in at the back end, and also get a future pick next year.
Yep, sounds good. And back to you, Kev. So the Tigers now still live with pick 13 or 12 it is now, sorry. It's good. There's a lot of Richmond action coming up here.
13, we got 2 in a row here, Al. So we went with midfielders for the first 2 picks for the Tigers with Smillie and Lalor, obviously. So we're going to go a couple of different picks here in bookends to complete the spine. And I'm going to start with Luke Trainor. So I'm a big fan of him, particularly earlier this year. He's an intercept defender type, 194 centimetres tall. Quality intercept player, can defend pretty well one-on-one as well. And I can just picture him teaming up pretty nicely with Josh Gibcus and Noah Bolter in that back line for many years to come. So I think that trio could make a pretty nice combination down back for the Tigers. And then with the second pick for this group here, I'm going to go with Jobe Shanahan at the other end. So Trainors in defence. Now I've gone to key forward. You only had to look at what this guy did for Essendon VFL in some games late this season. Considerable talent. He kicked 11 goals across 3 games for the Bombers. Showed some really strong marking abilities. He's 195 centimetres tall. The Tigers are pretty thin in attack. Tom Lynch is coming to an end. Jack Rewalt's gone. So he seems a perfect target to me for the Tigers.
Yep, that makes sense to me. Now, West Coast obviously did some interesting trades, and now they come in at pick 15. How are Eagles fans going to react here, do you think?
Well, I guess as you said, they'll be watching Finn O'Sullivan closely over the future, especially if he goes to them. But I think at this stage of the draft, they would have done that deal knowing that they'd be a good chance of getting this local talent here at this point in the draft, and that's Bo Allan, 191 centimetre defender or midfielder. But we're not just picking him because he's a local talent. He definitely fills a need as well. He's got line breaking ability. He's got great sidestep, that you can use off half back or in the midfield. Moved in a bit more there over as the year went on and showed some really exciting signs. And you look at what they're building there. Harley, Reid, Jimby, and Elijah Hewitt as well. I think he's another nice piece there, either off half back or also in the midfield as well. So we've ended up going him over a couple of who we might see in the next couple of picks in Xavier Lindsay and Murphy Reid. But I just feel that the local fit and also the fact that his athleticism really sets him apart.
Now, Kev, you've got Port Adelaide at pick 16. Any of those names that Dan mentioned that he's considered but decided against taking?
Yes, there's certainly one here who's been a bit of a slider in Murphy Reid. So I don't think there's too many clear list holes at the power. So it's pretty much best available policy here, and Reid is a slider. So some have him as a top 10 prospect this year. He's so pretty good to get it at 16, I would have thought. He's had comparisons to Scott Pendlebury with how clean and composed he is with ball in hand, good decision maker. The Power already have a pretty stacked midfield, but I think they can find room for Reid in there in time.
And you've got Freo as well, who come in at pick 17.
Yeah, and I think that's the other one that Dan mentioned there in Xavier Lindsay. So I don't think there's a huge gap between Lindsay and some of the other top mids in this draft. The Dockers would be pretty happy to land him here at 17. So he's reliable, he's quick, he steps up in big games. He's got a good balance between inside and outside game. And he won the Moraes medal in the Coates League this year as well. Best on ground in the biggest game of the year, the Under-18 National Championships match between Vic Country and Vic Metro. So a lot to like there. I think he'll fit in nicely at the Dockers.
And now, Dan, back to you. You've got 2 picks in a row for GWS.
Yeah.
What do you think the Giants can do?
We're going to look a bit into the future here. I think we can afford to draft on talent as the Giants. They don't necessarily need the immediate boost. You think they're going to still be up there for the years to come. And we're going to go with Taj Hotton here at pick 18 from the Sandringham Dragons. So he burst onto the scene earlier this year, both at school level and also for the Sandringham Dragons. I think all signs were pointing to him being a top 10 pick until he did rupture his ACL. So he might be a bit slow to get going at the next level, but I feel at his best and when he fully develops, he can be a speedy, agile midfielder, which obviously is so in vogue in the modern game. So I think he probably starts as a forward, but I think he'll be quite exciting and could prove to be a real steal at this point in the draft.
And with the second pick?
Yeah, that'll be, again, we're thinking, there's plenty of tools, a few tools that have gone. I don't see Jack Whitlock as too far back behind, your Harry Armstrongs and your Jobe Shanahan. So we're going to go with him, the second pick from the Murray Bushrangers, a 200-centimetre key forward. Also showing he can play in the ruck and be really mobile there as well. And I think Giants fans will be pretty excited seeing a key forward duo of Aaron Cadman and Whitlock in 5 years' time. So, we'll pencil him in. By the time Jesse Hogan is coming sort of to the twilight of his career, I think.
And Jake Stringer will still be
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe it's a career renaissance there. But, when he's starting to sort of come to the end of his career, Jack Whitlock might just be starting to hit his straps. So, I like the look of those two.
All right, so we're up to pick 20, and we'll just try and race through the final picks here in the first round. And Cav, you've got the Bulldogs at this pick.
Yep.
What do they need?
Well, I'm looking at the forward line. I'm thinking Aaron Norton, Sam Darcy, Jamari Ugle-Hagan. They're set for tools. Cody Waitman, Riley West, a couple of good smalls. But there's maybe a third spot there in the small department. So I'm going with Joe Berry from the Murray Bushrangers. He's virtually everything you want in a forward: work rates, speed, power, defensive pressure, goal sense. So I think he could complete a pretty dominant Dogs forward line for many years to come. And then with the Tigers at pick 21, I'm going with Cooper Hynes from Dandenong Stingrays. So I've already picked up 2 midfielders, an intercept defender and a key forward. So I'm going for something a little bit different here. He's a 190-centimetre half forward who finds the footy, hits a scoreboard. He can have a run through the midfield as well. He was co-captain of the Stingrays this year, second in the Moraes medal in the Coates League, and he's also a Richmond fan growing up. So a bit of romanticism there, but going to lock him in at 21.
Yeah, sounds good. So, Dan, back to you. Sydney has the next pick at 22.
Tell you what, would have loved Cooper Hynes or Joe Berry there as just an immediate one to slot in there to the Sydney forward line next year. But we're going to look at a key forward. Obviously, their key forwards didn't go too great on grand final day, but yeah, I think that there's room there for a developing key forward who's super competitive, and I think Jonty Faull from the GWE Rebels fits that mould. He could have well been higher up with Harry Armstrong and the like if he hadn't been impacted by injury this year. So he entered the season with a stress fracture in his back, came back and just went bang and kicked about 15 goals or so in his first 6 games. So yeah, and he showed what he can do in the Coates League prelim, kicked 5 goals in that game to pretty much get the Rebels into that grand final. So yeah, I think that there is plenty of potential there, and he's a super competitive forward who's quite got good below his knees. So good get for the Swans.
So first round is pushed out already to pick 23, and the Tigers still aren't done. So another one here.
Still going. So I'm looking at the ruck stocks now. I'm thinking Toby Dankervis is 30. Samson Ryan's almost 24. Hasn't quite come on yet. Oliver Hayes-Brown, is a Category B rookie. So they're the 3 rucks that you've got. I think you need to add to that. So Alex Dodson is the one for me. He's a South Australian, 201 centimetres. A little bit of Luke Jackson about him with his mobility, his follow-up work after the ruck contest, and I think there's a lot of upside because he's played basketball for most of his junior career. He hasn't played that much footy in recent years, so he represented Australia at basketball. So I think he's going to be a lock there at 23 for the Tigers.
And Dan, back to you with GWS. Have another pick here at 24.
Yeah, we invest a bit more in the future with the first 2 picks, but we're going to go with someone who I think could potentially play next year in Jesse Dattoli from the Northern Knights. So probably more of a small forward, but he's also played a fair bit of midfield this year. So I think that could potentially be him in the future. A bit of a forward mid sort of type. Obviously losing Harry Perham and James Peatling, you need probably a bit of depth there for either outside midfield or forwards. And yeah, I think he's just super creative. He can take a high mark, took a specky against WA in the national championships. I think there's a lot to like to him. A great ball user as well. So yeah, another who can get involved on the Orange Tsunami.
And you've got the Swans again with the next 2 picks here, nearly getting towards the end of the first round.
Yes, so Swans again, and yeah, we're looking probably at outside midfielders, something to add to our outside midfield mix, and we're gonna bid on Sam Marshall, and me as the Lions is gonna match that bid, and that just means we're pretty much in a draft deficit now. So you can go 1,700 points into draft deficit, which means it impacts your picks for next year. So, for example, I think Fremantle maybe 5 years ago, their first round pick of 7 went to about 11, so that it can impact your next year's haul. But I think the Lions probably, if this did happen, they'd get creative and try and trade in some extra picks from other clubs potentially to ensure they're not too much into debt, because they've also got a couple of quality players next year in their academy. So, but we'll match the bid, and it's I think it's a 605 points all up at this point, but it's certainly worth it. I think Sam Marshall can probably end up being that Jasper Fletcher to your Will Ashcroft. He's a prolific midfielder, was best on ground in the Coates League Grand Final day as well. And yeah, I think he showed he can have a bit more of an impact than maybe just a regular ball winner. But yeah, I think he's going to fit in nicely to that Lions side.
So yeah, Brisbane doing pretty handily for a team that's just
smashed
it in the grand final to pick up 2 top end picks through the sort of father-son academy setup. So yeah, you'd be pretty happy if you're a Brisbane fan.
Oh, absolutely laughing, yeah. And then back to me with the Swans. As I said, we're going to look for a sort of an attacking midfielder type after taking the tall in Jonty Faull, and we're going to go with someone who was touted as a top 10 pick at the start of the year in Christian Moraes. His attacking gifts are pretty special. He kicked 5 and had 27 disposals in one game, and was regularly kicking 3 or 4 goals sort of at the start of the year. Was pushed more to a flank at Vic Metro and at Eastern Rangers, and so wouldn't be surprised to see him slide even further than this in the draft in a fortnight's time or so. But at the same time, I think that there's huge upside with Christian Moraes, and yeah, I think he'd fit in nicely with Sydney's attacking brand.
Now we've got to the final pick of the first round, which is pick 27 after these bids have been matched. And of course, just to wrap everything neatly in a bow, it is Richmond again. Kev, who are they going to get with their, I think this is the 5th pick in the first round?
So I'm going to go with Matt Whitlock here. So I think the Tigers, I mentioned earlier, they're a bit light on key position stocks. So this guy's from the Murray Bushrangers. He's 198 centimetres and he can play either end of the ground. So to me, that's a perfect fit for Richmond. He's strong mark, can go forward and kick goals. There was 1 week he took 11 marks, and including 5 intercepts down back for the Bushrangers this year, and then he went forward the following week and kicked 4 goals. So he can genuinely do it at both ends of the ground. I think he'd be a valuable asset for the Tigers going forward.
So if that wraps up the first round as we've predicted, I mean, obviously Richmond, massive player, and the way you've played it out is they seem to have covered gaps all over the field. Is that how you think they'd try and build this team, which is going to be the core, hopefully, of maybe their 2029 premiership side or something?
No, exactly. I think it is. I think they need to go for some different positions, and I mean, you can't just pick 7 midfielders, can you? So, but they clearly need to stock up on key position players and ruckman as well, as I said, and a couple of gun midfielders at the top of the order, and you're set.
And the way this actually stands at the moment, they'd have the first pick on day 2 of the draft as well.
They would, yes. And so they might trade that into next year because clubs will come for that if there's a player that slips through the first round. That'll be a hotly sought after pick. So, potentially they trade that for a future first round pick and then you set yourself up for next year with a couple of first rounders. So
Tigers in a pretty good spot from a draft point of view, at least. And Dan, to wrap it up, I mean, of the names here, obviously there's a huge amount of talent. Feel like I'm going to be spending a lot of my SuperCoach salary cap on some of these early picks. But who do you think are the sort of the standouts that are can make an immediate impact?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much whoever Richmond drafts. Really, I think a Josh Smillie, particularly if he slides to 7 or 8. You'd think he's probably priced at about 170k or something like that. That's good value. I think Jagga Smith, no matter where he's picked up, you can probably lock him in to your side. One maybe I wouldn't go for, just a little bit of a buy beware, is probably Finn O'Sullivan. I just think he's probably going to be a low possession, high impact sort of operator. He probably might start on the outside because he's more lightly framed. So that might be one, and he's probably pretty expensive too at 200k. So maybe not. Harvey Langford, another one, as I mentioned, averaged about 150 SuperCoach points. So I think he's a pretty good buy as well. And then Leo Lombard, if he's playing midfield time, I think he averaged some pretty good numbers, even as a forward at VFL level. So, he's another one to watch.
And do we just pay up for Levi?
Actually, it depends. Maybe check the team sheet, see where he's named. If he's named forward pocket, maybe not. But I think we're spot for choice this year. Even a guy like a Xavier Lindsay, I think if he's starting off half back or a Tobie Travaglia, I think that they're definitely a couple of value options who, you don't have to spend necessarily 200k. We've got a lot of quality options and a lot of midfielders there at the top end as well.
Yeah, sounds good. So there'll be plenty of good names to talk about over the summer and the pre-season, obviously getting into next year and SuperCoach, but over the next couple of weeks to building up to the draft, these guys will have heaps of content. So check it out on all your News Corp platforms, and we'll see you back here soon.